Hello, little buns. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my home. My name is Stef. I am a former makeup artist. I am a gamer. I'm a streamer. I'm a lot of things. I'm a creator, but first and foremost, I'm a transgender woman, and I'm here to share some of the many beauty secrets that I've learned over the years with you. If you've looked for videos like this before, you may have come across some of my older content from 6 years ago or more, where I did original makeup for trans women 101 videos. I'll show you a snippet, like you'll see right now. I think my first ever one that I did a long time ago, and then another one I did a few years after that, and now we're here for around 3. And I've got even more to share with you. My goal with this video is to get really into the details about technique, about product, but not in a way that's overwhelming. I want to make this information as digestible and understandable as possible, so I'm going to be talking about it as if you haven't done makeup before. If you are moderately experienced with makeup, or even if you're very experienced with makeup, you can still learn something from this video, or maybe you can just enjoy it. I hope you do. But if you're looking for information from a complete beginner perspective, that is my goal here with this video, is I want to be a source of information for you. The reason why I want to make this video is because I know early in my transition, one of the most powerful steps that I took was deciding that I was going to take control of how I felt about myself and about my beauty. And as trans women, we're often told you can't be beautiful, you'll never be beautiful, you don't deserve to be beautiful, you're a freak, you're a monster. Listen, I hope you have not heard these things. I have. It sucked ass. It really sucks. Oh my God. Do not recommend. Please don't do that to people. If you've heard those things though, I hope they don't affect you too much. If they do, you're not alone. They used to affect me on a deep, deep level. I hated the way that I looked. And one of the most powerful steps I took in my transition was saying, no, I'm not going to feel that way. I refuse to let other people dictate how I feel about myself. And that started even when I was a kid. So this has been a long journey, but I'm in a place now where I feel comfortable, and I want to share the techniques that I've developed over the years with you in the hopes that, I can help you out, because you deserve to feel beautiful, okay? I think that beautiful can mean many things, and the most important thing is what it means to you. There's so many beauty standards out there that are very unhealthy. Your beauty standard should really be a completely internal experience. You should not be taking in things from cultural messaging, certainly not from marketing, okay? And not from random strangers on the internet that tell you you're ugly. Ignore those people. They do not know what they're talking about, and they are not qualified to affect your opinion of yourself. Only you are qualified to do that. So, if you're new to makeup, I hope you learn a lot here. Please let me know if you have any questions that I don't answer in the video. If you are more advanced or experienced with makeup, please come hang out with me. Let me know what your thoughts are in the chat. If you have any tips or recommendations that I don't mention, I'd love to hear that from you as well. Super interested in having conversations about this. Something I want to mention before we get started is that I am very grateful for the platform that I have here on YouTube that was built in large part due to a community of queer people and trans women that rallied around my early transition, that allowed me to have the opportunity to undergo things like facial feminization surgery, to grow this platform into a business that I now continue to run to this day in different ways. But something that is very important to me now in the present is to reconnect with that trans audience and also the trans woman inside of myself, because there's been some distance there. And I want to close that gap. I'm trans as hell, and I always will be. I got the trans colors behind me. Okay, eat it up. Let's get into the makeup. I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope I teach you something today. I hope you'll stick around. So subscribe if you enjoy the vibe at any point. And without further ado, let's get into it, okay? I got lots to share with you. The first thing to consider when you're starting your face of makeup, whether you're doing something more natural or something more dramatic, is always going to be skin prep. Skin prep has a few steps to it, but it's very simple, so don't get overwhelmed. Let's just get into it. So skincare is going to be things like washing your face and then moisturizing it. That's the most simple kind of skincare you can get with, and that's a perfect place to start. I'm going to be referencing e.l.f. Cosmetics a lot in this video, and that's because e.l.f. Cosmetics has a really affordable price point, and they have literally everything you could need to get started with makeup. Actually, no matter what your skin tone is, no matter what your needs are in terms of skin type, in terms of texture, you will find something that you need no matter what you're looking for. It's also very affordable. So for example, some of their products are available for $2, and they're also available everywhere. So you can get them online, but also in drugstores across all of North America, Walmart, different retailers like that. This video is not sponsored by e.l.f. I do work with e.l.f. on Twitch once in a while, a couple times a week actually, but this video is not sponsored. I'm talking about them and recommending them because of their affordable price point and the enormous variety of products that they have available. The reason I'm talking about this is because the first product I'm going to talk to you about is skincare. It is the e.l.f. Cosmetics Holy Hydration line. This is a sample size, so the actual skincare is a lot larger, but it's a very simple face cream, so you can get, when you're getting started with skincare, just a cleanser and a face cream. But you can read all about that when you're actually shopping for the skincare. The point is, the first step to makeup isn't makeup at all, it is a moisturizer. And this is what I'll be using today. This is, again, the Holy Hydration face cream. I'm just gonna get a little bit out of there on the back of my nail because acrylics are tools. Unless you ask the nail tech that installs them for you. I already moisturized earlier today, so I'm not using very much. I'm just gonna top it up a little bit with a bit of extra hydration. You might also want to use an eye cream depending on your age range and what you're looking to achieve, but just start with a cleanser and moisturizer if you're new to it. That's all you need to start. I would also recommend a lip balm. You can use any lip balm you like. This is one I've just had around for a while. It's super rich, so you don't need very much of it. I think this is like some random Burt's Bees. Yeah. Overnight treatment. That's why it's so thick. Now, the first step of actual makeup application I would recommend to be a primer. This has a few purposes. Number one, it's gonna form a barrier between your skin and the makeup. So if you have more sensitive skin, like I'm very prone to breakouts, for example, you can kind of see I've got like scarring and irritation, very sensitive. It'll form a bit of a barrier that will protect your skin from actually absorbing a lot of the makeup because the skin drinks in everything. Primers also have a couple of other secondary purposes depending on the formula you purchase. So this one, for example, is the e.l.f. Cosmetics Stay Cool Primer Stick. I like this one because it's good for sensitive skin. It relieves the irritation that I experience. And, you know, for example, something trans related here is I still have to shave every day. Listen, 10 years into transition doesn't mean you don't have any facial hair. It's really different person to person. Sometimes I get stuck on that like idea that I shouldn't have any, but listen, gal to gal, I gotta shave my face every day. That causes a lot of irritation, a lot. You'll see even around here, there's a lot of redness that's from shaving. So something that's gonna sort of soothe my skin is really great. This one's in a stick form, so I'm really just gonna run it over the skin. And the hydrating element as well is gonna be great for me because one of my concerns with my skin is the texture. Most primers are also gonna help you with the skin texture. It's gonna go on smoother when you're actually applying the makeup. It's also going to hold better depending on the product you choose. So if you have trouble with your makeup staying on all day, you might wanna actually look at their other option, their Power Grip Primer. It's a very popular primer, good for all skin types, but it holds the makeup on really, really well. So if your concern is that it's coming off through the day, Power Grip or something like that that's gonna really reinforce the staying power. If your concern is more hydration, sensitivity, and texture like me, maybe go for something that's more hydrating and soothing. Honestly, this entire prep section could be boiled down to you wouldn't paint a wall without cleaning it, priming it, and prepping it first. So don't do that to your face. You're gonna get a much better result. The paint's gonna stay on the wall if you prepare it properly first. Getting into actual makeup application, something very important is going to be having the right tools at your disposal. When it comes to the first steps of makeup, usually that's gonna be your base. Sort of foundations, concealers, that sort of thing. Some people call it cover up, but these are all many different products. There's so many different varieties available to you, but having the right tools to apply them is super, super key. Brushes are usually the recommended choice. You can also get some great beauty sponges that apply really nicely. It's really come down to preference. Some days I honestly like to apply my foundation with my fingertips. It just depends on the product, your skin, your needs, your budget, all these different things. That said, e.l.f. Cosmetics, and I use a wide variety of brushes from different retailers, different companies, but e.l.f. Cosmetics has some really good brush sets available. There's actually a full roll brush set that gives you literally any brush you could want to do a full face, including your eyes, for a very reasonable price. So that might be something to look into. Before we dive too deep into the entire foundation process though, I want to start with something called color correcting. Color correcting is very, very important to have in your toolkit if you're a trans woman, especially if you experience 5 o'clock shadow or, you know, the sort of darkness you get from hair growth in your face. If you've got like none, then like bless you. Like I'm very jealous. I had such a dense and dark beard 10 years ago. It's mostly gone. I get just a tiny bit of regrowth from here and there. But color correction is great because you don't have to rely on super thick, intense, heavy makeup to cover something, because often it won't do the trick anyway. With color correction, you're looking at the color that you want to correct on your skin. So for example, with 5 o'clock o'clock shadow that's gonna be blue, you go opposite on the color wheel. For example, with a blue undertone here, you wanna go to orange to cancel it out. With redness, you might wanna go to green to cancel it out. It depends on what you're trying to conceal. For me, it is, I get quite a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow effect here, just right here. So I'm gonna be focusing some orange concealer in this area to counteract that before I put on foundation. Now this one is a sample I got from a company. I genuinely don't even remember what it is. It works well. It's lasted me a long ass time, but e.l.f. Cosmetics does have some color correcting concealers, one of which is an orange or a peachy color. So you want to have like orangey, peachy coral for a blue color correction. This can also work great for really intense under eye circles. Like I've got a little bit, I'll use a bit there in a bit, but I'm gonna focus here first. And anywhere I kind of have any darkness, I'm just gonna tap it with a little bit of a concealer brush here, something light. Now, depending on your needs with color correction, you might have a lot to cover, you might have just a bit. No matter what it is, you wanna go light-handed. It's always better to go light-handed and build up than it is to go on too heavy and then have to try to like make it work somehow. Start light, build up, you can always layer product. And with color correction, we wanna try to be as localized as we can to the area that we're worried about. So I don't wanna paint my entire jaw orange because then I'm gonna have like an orange jaw when my foundation's on top. We want it to be very light. And just to keep demonstrating the color correction, I'll do it under my eyes as well. Where I get my kind of blue is right through this kind of curve, right on the eye socket. So I'm just gonna apply it and tap it out to blend it. This really just cancels out the blue. Around here it's complicated because there's also, it's not just blue, it's also irritation, redness. So it tends to show up more. When you know you've absolutely nailed color correction is when you blend it out and you don't really even see it. That's not always gonna be the case. That is honestly hardly the case for me. It doesn't mean you're gonna get a poor result. Something newer you can do to help secure makeup even while you're applying it is working with a setting spray. Now, I haven't tried this technique very much. I'm still practicing with it myself, but using a setting spray like the Power Grip Dewey setting spray on a sort of underlayer of concealer before we apply the foundation, in theory, and I'm testing this, should help keep this color correction where I've placed it rather than having it move and blend too much with the layer on top. So I'm gonna try that today. This is, like I said, the Power Grip Dewey setting spray. It's a very fine mist. I really like this one. And I'm just gonna spray it on especially the jaw where I've applied the color correction. We're gonna let that sit. And after like, I don't know, 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, I'll go in with the foundation layer. While we let this kind of set, let me know in the comments if you have any specific makeup questions that I can help you with. Whether you're trans or not, I am happy to help you out. I've got a lot of history in makeup. I've been doing this for like 15 years. I went to school for it, and then I had a whole YouTube career based on it. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help. Maybe it can become an entire video, you never know. For foundation, I tend to go for buildable foundations, something that's a bit lighter that I can sort of add to with more layers if I want. If you jump right to a full coverage foundation, the tricky part is getting it to sit well on the skin, getting it to blend well with your skin, and also if it does happen to lift through the day, it's gonna be really starkly different from your skin tone underneath, even if you've got a really good match. It's just a full coverage is a shocking layer of foundation. It can look great, but if we're talking about sort of getting started and what you should do to sort of get into it and also achieve a more natural look, I'd recommend something medium coverage and buildable. That's why we do color correcting, is so that you don't have to go for the super thick, heavy foundation. This is gonna give you a more skin-like appearance. That's gonna be important. The foundation I'm using today is another e.l.f. Cosmetics product. This is the Soft Glam Satin Foundation. I chose this because it is buildable. That's kind of the entire point. It is available on the website and Walmart exclusively for retailers, so you're not gonna find this at the drugstore, but it's available online, and a ton of shades as well. And the way I like to usually apply this is start with a couple drops right on the face, right from the bottle, and then I'm gonna use a buffing foundation brush for this one, and I'm just gonna tap it out. When you're applying foundation, you might be tempted to really get in there and like smush it into your skin. You don't want to do that. Buffing can be a good blending technique, but when we're applying the first layer of foundation, you'll notice I'm doing something called stippling. I'm just tapping it into my skin. And that's gonna let it blend out because I'm using so little product to begin with. I don't need to push it around. I can just tap it and you'll notice it will disappear into my skin. This is a pretty good match too, right? Then I'll apply a little bit more around my jaw and chin, just a bit, just drop by drop. That's gonna help preserve your product, and it's also gonna prevent you from putting more on than you need. Now look at that. I don't know about you, because this camera captures very high detail on my skin. I was shocked after I watched my last video. I was like, oh girl, there's a crusty on your lip. But, you know, when I'm looking in the viewfinder right now, that is gone. That orange, that concealer that I placed there, in person in the mirror, I can't see it. It looks canceled out. It looks gone. Honestly, in person, I can see a tiny little bit of texture. As far as what I would expect makeup to do and be capable of, this is a great result that I'm seeing here in person. Something you'll notice is I actually haven't applied any to my forehead yet, and that's because I don't necessarily want to apply coverage to my forehead. I will do a tiny little bit just so that it's a consistent blend, just like up here, for example. I don't want to do a full coverage on my forehead. And the reason for that is I have quite a bit of texture in the middle. And when I apply makeup to that area, what it is for me is like forehead wrinkles. And I've also got some scars from childhood. I face planted and like skidded across pavement on my face. It was really good for me. So I've still got some scarring and texture there. I try to minimize my makeup application in that area just so that there's nothing for the wrinkles to like make it more pronounced. When you have skin texture, the more makeup you put on that, the more that skin texture is gonna show, because you've got things like a satin finish in a foundation with that nice glow. Looks great right here, but if you put it on like a scar, it's gonna show the texture of the scar more than if that area was matte. So there's things you can do with that. Like I'll use a mattifying powder on areas where I have a lot of texture. For me, that's around here, and here. Something I do just to make that even easier for myself is don't apply makeup where I don't need it. That's a good trick, okay? If you don't need to cover anything on your forehead, and if the blend is good, like if you can't see a distinct difference in color, don't put it there. If you don't need it there, don't put it there. I am a very bold makeup wearer, and I'm telling you, less is more with the skin. Now I'll go in on a contour and a blush combo, but with foundation, I have learned less can be more. It really can. So we've been doing the stippling technique across the face. Where a buffing or a more pushing kind of motion is gonna be useful is like around here on my neck. So I'm gonna apply a little bit more, and I've got the smallest amount of concern here with like 5 o'clock shadow. It's not much. I've got a bit of a scar here from when I had my trachea shaved, but here by buffing the foundation, blending like this, it's gonna push it farther because I don't need a good coverage here. I just want it to match and have a nice finish. And there we go. I'm very pleased with this result personally. You might notice around my eyes isn't really covered up. I'm not gonna use the foundation there because it's not meant to sit there. The eye area is very delicate skin and it's got a lot of movement to it. When we express ourselves with emotion, our eyes move a lot. It has the most movement as well as the mouth. The eyes and the mouth move the most on your face. So you wanna be specific about the product you're putting around your eyes, both because they're delicate and because they move a lot. I'm gonna use a concealer. This is actually a Lancome concealer, all over concealer, Teint Idole Ultra Wear. e.l.f. Cosmetics has some great concealers like the Hydrating Camo Concealer. I'd really recommend that one. Any kind of liquid is gonna be good around the eyes because it's a lighter formula. You don't wanna go for super dense, heavy concealer textures. Actually, why don't I show you? Here's a couple of e.l.f. Cosmetics options. This one is the Hydrating Camo Concealer. You can see it's very similar to the last one. Same idea with pulling it out of the tube, and it's a liquid dropper. This one is not my shade. It's very fair. That's like deep winter for me, so I'm not gonna use that one. This one, I don't know if they still sell these. If they do, it's a good idea. This is the Flawless Brightening Concealer. This one is specifically, this is an unused one. Let's see. This one's specifically great for around the eye area because it is so lightweight and it's so focused on brightening. So why don't we try this one actually? I'm just gonna apply like a, oh, it's very fair. I might have to blend this with something else. Yo, that is a winter shade for Stephanie. I'm gonna put a bit of back here as well. Before I get too far into this speech, let's just try to blend it and see, maybe it will match. Maybe. I'm gonna use a beauty sponge for blending out the concealer. This is actually great because it fits nicely into the eye area, whereas a brush is gonna be kind of like stomping all over the place. A beauty sponge, you can just sort of lightly tap that concealer into place and not be pushing everything around. You know, that's not so bad. That might be an okay shade match for me. It looks so fair. My point though is, like, what I like about this is it's very lightweight, and you'll see that just that tiny little bit of concealer has erased the orange color correction, but the color correction didn't go away. It's just working in tandem with the concealer to create a really nice result that looks more natural than if I slapped on a ton of really heavy and fair concealer to create a similar effect. This looks much more skin-like. Okay, how you doing so far? You keeping with me? We're good? Beautiful, beautiful. Here's where we're gonna get into something very, very important, the sculpting of the face. And when it comes to, you know, my makeup recommendations for trans women, knowing how to contour your specific features is very important. Contour is not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. If you're super unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, we're gonna be taking a darker shade, not our skin, and not even like our skin with a tan. It's specifically like a shadow kind of shade, to create shadows where we want them and to take them away where we don't want them in terms of facial dimension. Now, I have had, full disclosure, if you're new to my channel, I have had facial feminization surgery. I had it a number of years ago. I actually did an entire video series on it back in the day that you are more than welcome to check out if you want to see like a very, very, very detailed account of getting facial feminization surgery. Like I was filming an hour after I woke up to show the real of it, okay? My point though being I have had it, so this sculpting, you know, is going to be different for you if you haven't. But even if, you know, even if I hadn't, between our two facial features, it's going to be different no matter what. So this will still work. Just follow along. And if you do have questions that apply to you that I don't answer, let me know in the comments and I will answer. Okay. I have been answering every single comment since my last video and I'm sticking to that promise, unless this gets like insanely viral and I can't keep up, but I will do my best. Okay. What I'm going to be doing for contour today is actually a cream product. Now I'm not sure if e.l.f. Cosmetics has an equivalent to the product I'm going to use today. They do have a putty bronzer. The thing is with bronzers is they tend to have a lot of bronze and orange tones to them, and that doesn't create a natural looking shadow. Natural shadows are more on the gray side of a darker shade. So I'm going to be using, actually, this is a UK product, Jekka Black. Their Sculpt and Soften palette. They have a contour shade on one side. You can see I've used the crap out of it. And a highlight shade on the other. So we'll use these two things and I'll take a look at e.l.f.'s library of products and see if I can get something that might be similar, just so, you know, if I do more Trans Women 101 makeup sort of videos, I like to keep it as affordable as possible. Maybe that'd be a good option. Here's how I'm going to use it. I'm using it on a small brush. You don't necessarily need to do this. I just like precision with contour. Now, for the purposes of this video and the educational purposes here, I'm going to be talking about very specific kind of dimensions. Just remember that it doesn't have to be so specific and that beauty standards are a bunch of BS. Everyone's going to go at this differently. Approach this with your own sense of femininity in mind, okay? But my goal with my facial features, especially prior to facial feminization surgery, was to take my face shape from more square to more round, oval, or diamond even, like something with a point. And to do that, I want to bring the cheeks from being like straight up and down to bringing them in more, which surgery has done, but I'm just going to enhance it some more. So to do that, we're going to look for the cheekbone right around here, but instead of just going right along with the natural shadow, we're going to place it just ever so slightly above the natural shadow. We don't want to go into the hollow of our cheek, just above the hollow of our cheek. That's going to create a lifted effect. The best way to go about this is not to just drag it across your features. You want to be lifting the cheekbone as you apply. So I'm literally brushing upward with the contour cream, like so. And I'm doing it nice and slow so you can see, but it won't always take this long. It won't always be so slow. Now, if I look at just that, you can see it's created this shadow coming in. It makes the cheekbone look higher and softer. We're gonna blend it more, but I think you see that idea. You can bring it in a little bit farther if you want. But what I would recommend avoiding is don't go in past the outside of your eye, because that's going to start to make your cheeks look sunken. So that's where we'll start for the cheeks. For the jawline, this is an important one. If you want to go from a very square jaw to a rounder one, I got you. Number one, when you're applying contour on the jaw, you don't want to go right along the jaw. You want to go under it. And something I learned a long time ago was as well, if you open your mouth and you look at where your jaw is when you open your mouth, it's different than when it's closed. And that's gonna matter because if you apply the contour right on top of the bone when you open your mouth, it's gonna look like you've got basically 5 o'clock shadow all over again. So you wanna be mindful of where you're placing this. What I like to do is open my mouth and apply the first bit. So you can see it's down here. That's not to say we're gonna stop there, but this is just the beginning. And I'll connect in the middle. Now from there, I want to create more dimension as well in front of my ear. So I'm gonna drag the line down here and connect to here. We're gonna create like a chin strap, okay? We're gonna blend it, don't worry. Down and connect, all right? And now we're gonna go downward. Where the shadows naturally fall when I'm looking forward at you, that's where we want to enhance, is right in the middle of the neck and along the sides. So I'm gonna drag it down in those areas. So just down here, down along the sides. Okay, so we should have like a trident effect going on. And then the last step, in order to make this sit more naturally like a shadow, we are gonna start pulling it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna blend it a little bit upward so it sits just a bit along the jawline, but not on top of it, just along the bottom. Still, when I open my mouth, that blend is gonna be softer than if I just applied it right there. Now, something you can do specifically with the chin, because that doesn't move a ton in terms of like the skin when you open your mouth. If you want to make it look pointier, you can do that by taking the middle of your chin and just dragging up with the contour ever so slightly. And that will create a pointier effect at the bottom. Everywhere we're placing the contour is creating shadow. Just keep that in mind and you'll be able to play with it a lot. Contouring will take practice to achieve the look you want. You're not going to get it exactly as you want it on the first try. Just keep experimenting. Stay with it. Last but not least, I'm gonna do my nose. I did add just a little bit to the sides of my temples here. I like that to create a bit more shadow and keep it consistent with my face, but I'm not trying to restructure my forehead, just make it consistent with the colors and the shadows of the rest of my features. The nose, however, we're gonna be doing a little bit more on. So for my nose, I don't wanna change the shape too much. I have a very round nose and I kind of like that, but I do like to create definition, and especially with the bridge of my nose, create a really narrow look here. So to do that, we're gonna create shadows. I'm gonna use the thin side of the brush, not the flat side, but the tip. And I'm gonna just drag along the side of the nose. One good trick is to take the inside edge of the nostril and to go up from that point along the side of the nose. And that way you'll have basically just the center part will be free of the shadow, which is what you want. And we're just going to make that nice and narrow. With nose contour, it's gonna be all about blending. You don't wanna see these lines when you're done or it's gonna look crazy, okay? Now we're gonna start blending everything, but I'll start with the nose because it's the hardest. Rather than brushing up and down, because we're gonna move everything around, we're gonna be doing some tapping. So I'm actually gonna squeeze the brush a little bit narrower because I don't want it to hit my entire eye area. And I'm just gonna tap up and down along the contour like this. And that's gonna blend it out really softly, because the last thing we want, if we're talking about light and shadow, a small object produces a small shadow. A large object produces a large shadow. If we want the nose to appear slender and narrower and smaller, if we do a large contour, it's gonna make it look larger even if the concealer is placed to make it look smaller, because the shadow is large. So when we're blending it, we don't wanna bring the shadow out really far. We wanna keep it right along the sides of our nose. That way it looks like the shadow of a small nose is small. Does that make sense? Along the cheek, just blend upward, just like we placed it, just blend upward. You can do a little bit of side to side here and there if you need to. You just want to soften that line and maintain the placement. There we go, very nice. And forehead, I like to blend inward. Okay, and then the jawline, you can kind of, just like with the foundation application, you can get a little bit messier with that blend. And make sure you don't leave the front of the ear unblended because that can look crazy. We're all blended, but we're not done with sculpting yet. Like I said, this is the most complicated part, but it's also the most powerful. So we're almost there, stick with me. Now that we've placed the shadow, we're gonna contrast it with light. The same way when you do art, if you do art, you'll know when you go to place like your flat color, like our foundation, afterwards, if you want it to look more real or more dimensional, you're gonna add shadow and light. So we're gonna do the same to our face. For that, I'm gonna use the same brush as I did before, and I'm just gonna use the other side of the Jecca Black palette. If we're talking e.l.f. Cosmetics and you have, say, the putty bronzer and a light concealer, perfect. Don't go too pale with the color of the highlight. We wanna be able to blend it to look natural, but here's how I'm gonna use it. With the cheek, I want the highest point to be basically right here. I don't want it to be under my eye because it's complicated, but if it's coming out round, you want the highest point to be the tip of the cheekbone and for it to kind of bounce back down towards the nose. So we don't want to cover this in a flat plane of brightness. We want to basically do right here to be the brightest and most pronounced part of the cheek. Make sure you don't over apply with the highlighter or you're gonna undo all of your contouring work and you're gonna have to go back in and do layers and layers. That's okay, you make mistakes, you try again, but just as a tip, light-handed, again, light-handed. And then for the nose, we're gonna go straight down the middle with the narrow part of the brush. You want this to be very narrow. I'm going straight down the middle, okay? Straight line. At the tip of my nose, I'm gonna do another straight line like that, kind of just almost like a square. And then we're just gonna kind of blend it out a little bit, but we'll come back to blend it fully. I just want to have it like naturally flow upward towards my forehead, if that makes sense. To keep the shadows along the side of the nose narrow, to keep them clean, I'm also going to apply a little bit just along the edge of the shadow. We don't want to erase the shadow. We just want to make sure it stays exactly where we placed it. By doing this and applying the highlight here, you should actually be able to see in the camera my nose looks slenderer just by placing that highlighter on the outside of the contour. From like 5 seconds ago to now, it should look completely different to you. We'll blend it in a second. With the chin, if we want to go pointy, we're going to apply kind of like a triangle, upside down triangle right here. And something I like to do, because I like having a strong jawline, I like having it pronounced, beautiful warrior woman vibes, you know what I mean? I like to just go along the jawline above the contour and do a similar thing. And if you want your cheekbones to look more pronounced and dramatic as well, you can also go under the contour and do something similar. Now these areas, if you are really focused on minimizing your jaw size, you're gonna wanna not do this because this is gonna draw attention and light to those areas. If you wanna keep it narrow, you don't need to contrast your shadows down here with more light. I find it just makes it look more structured, which I like, but sometimes the goal is to look less structured. So keep that in mind while you're experimenting with your own contour and highlight experience. Now to blend this, we're gonna tippy tap with our foundation brush really lightly. And again, we don't want to move this too much. We want it to stay exactly where we placed it. So just tap. If we drag, we will move it, we will smear it. If we tap, we're just going to pat it in. It's gonna kind of dissolve into the skin. Stun. Now on the nose side of things, I like to be really light-handed with my tapping here because I like it to show up really nice and strong, but we gotta blend at least a little bit. There we go. And then under the jaw, really light, really light. Now we've done all of our sculpting. Your result here should feel like you've got your sort of dimensions established that you like. Now I'm a big fan of cream blushes because, you know, we did our flat plane of color, we did our light and shadow. Now we need to add some life, some color. If you've got no makeup on, you're gonna see some like redness to your cheeks, okay? And like blush is meant to be kind of romantic and sweet in its origins, like, oh, I'm blushing. But there's lots of ways to make this fun and stylish and lots of colors you can play with. e.l.f. actually has some of my favorite liquid blushes on the market. These are the Camo Liquid Blushes. This is my favorite shade for my own skin. It's a kind of perfect natural pink for me. Creates a really nice flushed effect. The color is Pinky Promise. Pinky Promise, I'll answer any questions you have in the comments. These are so potent in color. With blush, oh my goodness, if you're going for a soft, natural look, be so light-handed. Like I said, be light-handed with contour and highlight. This is even more. Like I'm gonna show you the smallest amount of blush. Okay, I'm kind of worried that's too much. Let's just do one side at a time so you can see how this blends out. For blush blending, I'm gonna use another e.l.f. Cosmetics brush. This one's called the Putty Blush brush, which is perfect. While I'm not using a putty blush, I'm using a liquid blush, it's still gonna blend gorgeously, and that's because it's got these really kind of sparse bristles at the top. It's gonna blend it really like thin, rather than keeping it really concentrated, because we don't want that. So what I'm gonna do with it is tippy tap, and then I'll explain where I placed it and why I blended it this way after. I'm just gonna tippy tap it right along the cheekbone, where I place the contour and the highlight, kind of in the middle. If we do contour, blush, highlight, right? But we're doing blush last. You should see this hint of warmth or color, even the pink is kind of cool toned, but you should see some color kind of blending into the face where, you know, it comes in. Blush placement is super individual. This is another thing where it's gonna be like you experiment with it yourself, you see where you like it. Some people like it right on the apple of their cheek where I put that highlight color. Some people like it kind of deeper into the forehead or the temples. That's a very 80s style. It's very cool, I love it. What I like to keep it very tight and structural, because that's what I like to go for, is right along the cheekbone where I placed the contour and the highlight, and I'm not moving it in very much. I'm keeping it right along the cheekbone. So I'm gonna tap it, right? Because stippling doesn't move it. And you can see I'm blending it out kind of into a straight diagonal line. If you're still with me, I congratulate you. You're doing amazing. You're doing amazing, sweetie. Oh my goodness. I like creams and liquids. I like doing all of my like placement of color and dimension before we powder the makeup. But there's lots of great powder options out there for contour and highlight, for blush, even for highlighter, which we'll get into in a minute. Between powder and cream and liquid, it really comes down to preference. Just know that if you're working with any powder products, those have to go on at the very end. You don't want to put powder on cream and then go back in with cream. It's going to be really, really hard to keep the finish nice and smooth. That cream, once it's on top of powder, is gonna start lifting the powder. There's oils and stuff in cream products that just don't sit nice on top of powder. It's possible to achieve a good finish, but it's very advanced. So powders are last. Liquids, creams, powder after, okay? The last thing I'm gonna do before we go into powdering the face and working on like brows and eyes is my highlighter. Highlighter is very optional, but I really like it because I can bring attention and light and like fun to an area, and I find it creates this really feminine kind of glow. This is an e.l.f. Cosmetics product. This is the Jelly Pop Glow Stick. This is my every single day highlighter. I love this so much. I recommend it even like anybody. I love this thing. I think it's limited, so get it while you can. It comes in a little push-up stick. If you wanna be very careful with highlighter application, go slow and light-handed, okay? Where I'm gonna be placing this is pretty much everywhere I placed the highlight from the contouring section. The difference with this compared to that is that was kind of a painterly highlight where it applies a color. This is a glow highlight. It's just applying a finish, right? So the way you might gloss a wall, do you do that? I don't know. If you're painting anything and you want it to be a glossy finish, the highlighter is the thing that's doing that. For the middle of my nose, with the stick like this, I like to just turn it sideways and really gently run it down the center. And then I'm just tapping it out. If you are not using a push-up stick like this that has a defined edge, use a small brush or the tip of your finger. Just be very careful with your placement, especially on the nose, because if you did really good with sculpting it with like the color and then you put a glow over your shadow, the shadow doesn't look like a shadow if it's reflecting light. The shadow is supposed to absorb light. So you want to be very careful with the placement of your glow. And I'll do just a little on the tip of my nose, and that's going to grab the light and just make it, it's cute. Where highlighter really shines is the cheekbone. For that, I like to get it on my finger. I'm going to gently kind of roll it. You can see that glow, right? Right into the area where when I smile, it's like, ah, hi. I don't know what ah, hi means, but you can see that, right? I'm neutral, and then, ah, you know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. So we're just going to roll that into the skin, tap it. And again, if I had powdered my face at this point, it would be lifting all of my makeup. So that's why we're powdering last. And now when I smile, the light hits those cheeks and it just beams. Cool? That's the idea. You can also do a little bit right on the tip of my chin, just a bit. And I also like to do this above my lip. I have a very limited Cupid's bow. Only reason I have a semblance of one is because of injectors, but I can enhance that and create kind of a nice softness there and a hydration by just running it along this area really lightly. That looks kind of crazy. Just tap it out. And that's gonna make it later when I go in to do my lip product, it's gonna look a lot more like framed, I guess. The last place I like to apply highlighter, because I have dry skin, is on my forehead right above my eyebrows. And I think it just makes it look more consistent with the glow of the cheeks if I've got glow on my temples, because it looks like, oh, her skin is very moisturized. We could sit here and unpack and digest why glowing skin is associated with femininity 1,000 times over. There's many reasons. I just find that the highlighter is a good finishing touch in the same way that a gloss finish on something else is a nice touch. It's not always gonna be the right move. There's some looks where I wanna be very matte. There's some looks that I wanna be even more shiny than this. It really depends on your preference, your style, and what your goals are. All that said, this was a lot of steps for the face. We had some color correcting concealer, foundation, a little bit of concealer for like dark circles and things. Then we did contour and highlight. And then we did blush. And then we did more highlight with the satin finish. So that's like 7 steps. I know that feels like a lot. It becomes very routine and it makes a lot of sense after you practice a few times. Color correction first, then your canvas, then your shadows and light, then your color and finish, okay? Now to keep this all locked in, you have a few options. Powder is a very traditional choice. I like powder. I've seen a lot lately of makeup artists and people that enjoy beauty just not doing powder at all and just going right for a setting spray. That's cool too, although powder does have some very specific applications, okay? Namely in stopping makeup from creasing. And if you're very oily skin, you're gonna want a powder for sure, just to keep everything pat in. Now I'm using a powder I don't really like just because I have it, so I'm not gonna recommend it, but e.l.f. Cosmetics does have the Halo Glow powders. I really like those, I need more. They look like they would have some shimmer to them. They don't, they actually have a very natural finish, a very skin-like finish, and I love that. But back to powder. Where I apply this is specifically under my eyes and along the sides of my nose because I want to keep those things locked in. I do get oily beside my nose, so I do want powder there for that reason, to absorb the oil. Under my eyes, it's because I have a little bit of creasing that can happen. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my beauty sponge to tap out any creases that have already formed. You can see that the makeup can settle into fine lines while you're just doing the rest of your face. So you wanna make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I've gotten my powder on the back of the beauty sponge, on the butt of it, right? This is a flat plane, makes it really nice and easy to press it in. And we're gonna do just that. We're gonna press it directly into the makeup. You don't wanna put too much pressure. You want it to be lightweight, but you do wanna push in, not across. And then I'm gonna keep bringing that down the sides of my nose because I get oily there and I wanna prevent that from lifting. Another area where I can crease is my forehead, between my brows and up on the actual forehead area here. So I'll do similar there, but I don't have a lot of makeup there today, so I'm not gonna apply too much powder. Just a little. And then the last place I like to do this is where I did the color correcting down here. And the reason for that is it's not just the color correcting in that area, it's also got a lot of texture because that area is just really sensitive to the shaving I have to do. So by applying powder, what I'm doing is reducing the shine that is catching on the texture. So when the texture of the skin is reflective, you're gonna see the shadows more because the highlights are more visible. When we bring all that down with a powder that mattifies it, it's a lot less visible when there's texture. So now that all of that is on, I'm gonna take a big fluffy powder brush and just get a little bit of the powder on the brush, and I'm just gonna kind of blend that out really light. Again, you don't wanna apply a lot of pressure here. You wanna kind of tap the powder out from the center of the face or wherever you've applied it. It really depends. And we should have a very polished finished canvas here that looks relatively natural and has achieved some sculpting goals for us. Let me know what you think of that process so far in the comments. We're gonna finish this off with a more natural everyday kind of look, which is gonna be a great thing to have in your pocket if you're newer to makeup, but if you're not new to makeup and you're just looking for some tips, I'm gonna teach you some blending techniques and things. So stay tuned. We're gonna move on to the eyes and brows and lips last, okay? With eyes, a very important step if you're gonna be doing any eyeshadow, which are the sort of powdery, colorful palettes that you see here. So much fun. One of the most fun things in makeup is getting a new eyeshadow palette. If you're gonna be working with shadows, you are gonna want a primer, an eyelid primer. Some people say, oh, I use concealer, and that does work for some folks, but concealer can be more likely to crease than an eyelid primer. Different skin types, even skin tones, are gonna benefit from concealers versus eyelid primers differently. However, e.l.f. did just release a new eyelid primer that I adore. I use this every single day. It is definitely my #1 choice. The Lock It Down eyeshadow primer. It is a sort of catch-all skin tone. It's very translucent. It looks quite pale, but when it blends down, it just disappears into the skin. And I'm applying this from my lash line, really light here, by the way. You don't want to go heavy, really light from the lash line to the brow bone, all across the eye area. Now, an eyelid primer has two purposes. #1, similar to the face, it's gonna help with longevity. It's gonna keep that eye makeup on there longer. It's gonna prevent it from creasing up with a bit of oiliness or with some sweat that can happen in the crease of the eye, for example. And again, different eye shapes are gonna have different success rates with this, but a good eyelid primer, even on a like completely lidded, hooded eye, is gonna keep the makeup in place. Even if you can't always see the makeup, it will still be there. The other thing it's gonna do though, in addition to longevity and staying power, is it's going to help the color come out very true to color. If you apply an eyeshadow on just unprepped skin, it's gonna kind of go on like a wash. If you apply it on a primed eyelid, it's gonna have something to grip to. Think of it like a glue that sits on the lid. When you put the shadow on, it's gripping, you're getting the full color payoff of it, and it's gonna stay there. So one way to demonstrate that would be, actually, I can show you on the back of my hand. There's a few eyeshadow palettes I'm gonna recommend in a second, but for my test, I'm gonna use the Bobbi Brown palette I'm gonna use for my eyelids today. Let's take this kind of gray shade right here. If I just put that on the back of my hand, it's not bad. And that's not bad. You can see it's a little bit patchy, but you're getting some color payoff. Different brands are gonna have different success rates with how it looks without primer. But if I apply primer next to that and show you the payoff on primer, you're gonna see my point. You see my point, right? The color payoff is much more true to what's in the pan, and it's gonna stay there. Because even if I take my little makeup towel here and I try to wipe it off, that's gone, pretty much. That's gonna stick a little bit more. It's not perfect, but I mean, it is rub it with a towel, but you can see it's even still there. So you're gonna get a lot more wear out of something that's primed. With that in mind, you're gonna want an eyelid primer on, and we're gonna go into a natural look. Something that I found a lot of success with when I was doing feminizing makeup is making sure that there is a lot of lightness above the eye. We don't want to go too heavy or too dense and dark with eyeshadow if we're going for something approachable and easy and comforting for you. Now, again, that's going to be different for everybody. Maybe you're more comfortable with a thick, dark, black, smoky eye, and go for it, okay? That's awesome. If you want that video, let me know. I'll make that video. But this one is what worked for me. This is what I found to be comfortable for me when I was first transitioning and wanting to just kind of relax in public spaces. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually use one of my most recommended palettes for people just getting into makeup. This is the e.l.f. Cosmetics New Classics palette. I've used a lot of this palette, and you can see basically it's got all of your neutral and nude shades for fair to medium skin tones. And it's got like your blacks, your browns, your bronzes, a really good kit if you're going for more natural kind of looks. They have another one if you want more bold color, if that's more your style, called 18 Hit Wonders, which has all the colors you could want really. Bright blue, bright green, bright yellow, red, pink, all kinds of fun things. So honestly, if you're getting into makeup for the first time, I recommend both because they're pretty, again, affordable. But for the tutorial today, I'm gonna use this skin tone shade up here. It's skin tone for me, it's called Cream. And I'm gonna apply this pretty much all over the top half of my eye area. So from the brow bone down to the crease, but not all the way down to the lash line. And that's gonna brighten that area up, keep it nice and matte. It's also going to help when we start applying color below it and we wanna blend it up and out. This is gonna make sure that blend is nice and smooth. Because you just saw in my hand, when that brown hits a primer, it goes on dark and intense. We wanna keep that intensity at the lash line and not higher. So by applying the skin tone there, we're making sure there's kind of a block. But the primer underneath is still important because it's gonna help the blend, okay? You still wanna prime your whole eye area. I'm gonna go back to that Bobbi Brown palette and go into this taupey gray shadow we started with. And this one is gonna go, I'm using kind of a flat eyeshadow brush. You can see it's kind of precise, but it's flat. It can apply across a wide area. I'm applying this close to my lashes, and then when we get to the back of the eye, I'm gonna bring it up a little bit higher. And something that I like to do for my eye shape is create a bit of a winged effect. A winged effect is gonna lift your eyelid. It's gonna pull the eye shape upward at the back. If you do really, really heavy makeup, it can sometimes drag it down, but the position of the makeup is more important. You'll notice that your lower lash line has its own trajectory, right? You've got your waterline inside, that's the fleshy color right against your eyeball. If you follow the angle that makes at the back of your eye, you're gonna have a successfully lifting effect with your placement. You wanna make sure you're not dragging it down by applying below or dragging it downward or even outward. Again, different eye shapes are gonna have different results with this, but for my eye shape, you wanna follow the line. That's what worked for me. Try it and let me know if it works for you. And I'm not worrying about it being perfectly placed yet because we're gonna be blending some things. Eyeshadow can very much be a trust the process kind of situation. So don't get discouraged if it doesn't look great right away. Usually a look doesn't look finished until I've got 4 eyeshadows, an eyeliner, and a mascara on. Okay, keep that in mind. I'm gonna move into a bit of a shimmer next. So this next color in the middle of the palette is a similar color, but it's got a bit of reflectiveness. That's gonna bring some light and attention to the eye area, kind of like the cheekbone does with a highlighter. So we'll dip into that on kind of a smaller precision brush. And that's gonna go just above that matte gray. But what we're not gonna do is bring it into the outer corner. We're gonna keep that on the eyelid, not into the wing area, because we don't want this to be reflective. We want it to be matte. We'll actually apply a bit more of the gray back there so that it's in line. For my eye shape, I like to kind of create this triangle effect. It works well for me. The key takeaways that I want you to pull here though are keeping the makeup closer to the lash line rather than bringing it up above the crease, and going for these natural colors and how they're gonna blend together. So applying the matte gray in the outer half and the shimmery gray in the inner half. One more shadow from this palette for the lid itself is gonna be this shimmery cream shade. So again, like a skin tone shimmer, and that's gonna go just above the shimmery gray right here. So a bridge between the matte cream that we applied earlier, the skin tone color. We're gonna also apply a shimmery skin tone color in this inner third. And you can already see when we blend the grays with a skin tone color like this shimmer, it brings down the intensity immediately. And that is the importance of having a nude for your skin tone in an eyeshadow palette. Now we want to create a blend. So I'm going to take a completely clean eyeshadow brush. It's a fluffy domed shape. The more domed a brush is, the better it's going to be for blending out shadows on the eye area. So we're not adding anything here. I'm just taking this brush because we've already applied our skin tone color up above. I'm just going to go along the edge of this gray and blend it out. And you can do a few motions. Okay, I'm showing you one right now, side to side, like a windshield wiper. You can also go circular like this. Both are good. They're gonna give similar results. It really depends on where you're brushing. So I usually do a little bit of both. A circular motion is gonna be good if you're trying to blend out a very specific area. You wanna soften a specific spot. The windshield wiper is going to help blend out an entire swath. But you can see we've really softened those lines. The softened lines are going to also be really good for creating a more approachable, comfortable, low-key vibe. Because again, that is what worked for me early on. And that's a great place to start. You can always add, right? Like I said towards the beginning of the video, start light-handed and add more. It's always better to add more than to try to take something away. Now, something I'm going to do is back to my original cream eyeshadow from the New Classics. And you'll see here, there's a bit of darkness below where it kind of drags down, just where the concealer was, but I used a light concealer. So you could use a heavier concealer, or I'm gonna go to my skin tone color and tap it onto the face. I'm gonna also use it to blend this down a little bit more. And that's gonna brighten that area significantly and clean up the shapes that we're building. Now, something I want to mention is I'm using this other Bobbi Brown eyeshadow palette. There's no reason you can't achieve this exact same look with the New Classics palette. I've just done this specific eyeshadow look with Bobbi Brown's 1,000 times. So I'm using what I'm used to, but I use that other palette for everything. So big recommend. We're gonna do one last eyeshadow. We've got a nice blend here, but what I wanna do is add a little bit more focus and intensity on the lash line. So going back into that palette, you'll notice there's one really dark shade, almost black, but not quite. It's a very, very dark brown. I'm gonna use an angle brush. You can see the shape of that. It's just, there's no way to describe it, but it's an angle. It's very precise. You can place things very precisely with an angle brush. So I'm gonna get that just on the tip of the brush, not on the flat sides, but on the tip of it. We're going to push that into the lash line. This is something I really want you to take away if you're trying to learn techniques here. There have been so many points in this video where instead of brushing, I have pushed or stippled or tapped. That technique is going to be really important if you're trying to go with a light hand and build upward and develop technique and precision. The tapping motions, super duper important. So what you should notice between the two eyes is there's a lot more focus on my lashes here. When we go to do mascara, it's gonna be really important to bring that beautiful full lash effect that's very, very mindful, very demure, but creating that really full lash line is a classically feminine look, and it's what we're going for here. It also adds some definition. The same way when we had a flat canvas before we added contour, this creates some lines, right? When you're doing illustration, you need some line work in there, otherwise it's just a bunch of color. And that's gonna be the important bit with eyebrows, eyelashes, and eyeliner. That's the whole point of it, is to add definition. You'll know I'm using an eyeshadow for this instead of, say, a liquid eyeliner. I am a huge liquid eyeliner fan. I'm normally all about it, but that creates a much more intense and graphic look, and I'm going for soft. So by using eyeshadow to create the definition, the edge is going to be a lot softer. If we went for a black liquid eyeliner, it would have a very different feel to it. Now, if you want a black liquid eyeliner recommendation, I am a super fan and always use the e.l.f. Cosmetics H2O proof black liquid waterproof pen. It is my always and forever eyeliner. Just do it. It's so good. I think it comes in a few shades, actually. I really want the brown one so I can do softer looks. If you are trying to keep it soft and you have a skin tone similar to mine, a brown liquid liner rather than a black can help you with that. Same with mascara. Now, something I like to do for my eyes, and I use this to finish off every look, this is not gonna be for everybody's eye shape, but for mine, I've got really wide set eyes, and I like to frame them by really defining the inner corner of my eye area. So to do that, I'm going to take the same dark eyeshadow and I am going to bring it just slightly down in the front and then slightly over. We're not going to go too big here. We're trying to keep it real light, like so. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like that really does something for my face. Give it a try for your own. Don't let me tell you no. Give it a try, see if you like it, but it's not going to give the same effect on every face. If you yourself have wide set eyes, you might want to give it a try. I'd love to see Anya Taylor-Joy with this kind of eyeliner on. Has she done that somewhere on a red carpet? Like, I'd love to see it. When I'm doing makeup, I like to give my eyes a break after I do my eyeshadow because they can get a bit irritated and I don't want them to water. You can jump right to mascara now, but I'm gonna do my brows first. Brows are super important. They are the frames of your face, especially of your eyes themselves. One of the tricky things about eyebrows is the style of what is the best eyebrow changes like every 3 years. It is so fast. I think right now, one of the trendiest eyebrow looks is a thin, like almost pencil brow, like early 2000s style. My number one recommendation for brows is to go for a fluffy, natural appearance when you're getting started. Go off with the style when you've got your techniques developed, but to get started, fluffy and natural is good. So don't over pluck it, don't over shape it, keep it natural in shape, just tidy it up so you've got some room to work with. And you might not even need to apply a pencil. Pencils are good for filling in gaps. So if you've got really sparse eyebrow hairs and you want them to be a bit fuller, that can look really beautiful. Or if you're missing a chunk from maybe even a scar, or you've over plucked, which you would not be the first person, like seriously, I overpluck on a regular basis. You might be more interested in, say, an eyebrow gel, which comes out in a kind of like a mascara tube and you brush it on. If you've already got pretty full brows, you might just want to do that. Or you might just put a little bit of powder, brow powder through it. There's lots of options. What I do is brow pencil because I've got some sparseness and I have some areas I like to add, like my tail. So I'm going to start there. For brow shape, here's some simple guidelines to start. For the front of your brow, you go up from the side of your nose, just line the pencil up. You can see mine's lined up already because I've painstakingly made that happen. But I'll start by just tidying up the front, and I recommend you press your pencil down at the bottom of the brow and brush upward, kind of like we did our contour, because the hair has a root, right? And then it comes out and up. So you want the darkest part to be where the pressure's put on the pencil and for it to kind of fluff away. Some pencils have a really nice fine tip, and you can create almost like completely lifelike hair with them. This is more of a powdery pencil. This is the e.l.f. Instant Lift Brow Pencil. I like this one because it's a perfect color for me right now, but I do prefer a more precise and more defined tip. I can achieve the result I want with this, but it's easier with a smaller tip. And then in terms of tail shape, a good rule and a good guideline for where to stop the end of your brow is go from your nose to the edge of your eye. And you're following that same line that you do for lifting with eyeshadow, you follow for your brow. And wherever it meets your brow is where you should stop it. So this is my perfect precision placement for what I like to do. Experiment on yourself. Try that method of using your nose to measure out your brow. Let me know what you think. How did that work for you? Eyebrows are something that can really make or break your makeup and honestly the way you feel about your whole face. So that's why I suggest you take your time. Don't modify them too heavily right away. Take small steps, experiment, try different products. Slowly find that brow shape you like. Now that the brows are done, giving my eyes a break, I'm going to do my mascara. A very important step to mascara can be curling your eyelashes. What it's gonna do is you're gonna clamp the lashes in there and it's gonna create dimension and lift. And a lifted lash is very, very nice and very important. You might be tempted to jump right into like a big set of false lashes. If you're going for a natural look, that is the last thing you wanna do at the beginning. Okay, you can work your way there. Lashes can take something that's a very nicely applied makeup look to something that's very intense. It can make it very intense very fast. You just wanna be careful with it. If that's the look you're going for, honestly, like, do it. But I just know from, as a woman of trans experience and a part of the trans community, oftentimes trans women can go for very thick lashes, thinking like this is feminine, this is what I want, and it can create a different effect. That said, like I said at the beginning, style trumps all. Do you. I'm not here to tell you what not to do. I'm just here to give you some tips and guidance and advice, especially for people that are just getting started. If that's not you, it don't apply to you, okay? I'm gonna curl my lashes. Be careful when you're doing this. Don't jump, don't be scared. If you're scared and you jump, you're more likely to make a mistake. So just go in calm, all right? There's really nothing to be worried about. You just wanna get your lashes clamped in there. You can hold it for a few seconds if you want, or you can kind of do what I do, and that's kind of like clamp it over and over. I don't know if there's an official like science approved method that gives the best results. I usually like clamp it a bunch and then I hold it for a few seconds. And you can usually see in the mirror they're slightly lifted. So once those are curled, you wanna go to a mascara. e.l.f. Cosmetics has a ton of great mascaras. It's really down to the brush that you want. And again, I'm recommending e.l.f. because they're so affordable. You can get your entire face kit, like every step I've gone through for probably less than $100, which I don't think you can do with any other brand out there and also get a result that's any good. So e.l.f. big recommend, okay? This mascara is called Lash and Roll. I like it because the brush is really precise and narrow. The fluffy brushes are fun. I don't know, I kind of just bounce back and forth. I don't honestly have a super big preference for mascara. When you're doing your mascara, you want to first, when you're pulling it out, make sure it's not covered in gunky product. You wanna make sure it's not completely loaded. Kind of wipe off the excess on the top of the tube. And then you're gonna go into your lash You are probably gonna poke yourself in the eye a few times if you're new to makeup, but you wanna start towards the root of the lash. And there's a few ways you can apply mascara. Usually you're gonna do both. You can hit the bottom of the lash and kind of go back and forth and wiggle your way upward. Another way is to kind of brush up from the root. That's gonna help kind of spread the lashes apart and give it a nice fanned effect. Or you can go in with the tip of the spoolie and just hit one lash at a time. And that's gonna be good usually for getting the inner corner lashes that you don't wanna hit with the entire width of the brush because you could get it on your skin. Now, God forbid you do get mascara on your eyelid where you've done some makeup or on your cheekbone. Don't panic, don't try to get it off right away. Let it dry and then go in with a Q-tip, it will flake right off. If you go in when it's wet, you're gonna smear it everywhere and you're not gonna be able to remove it afterwards because it's gonna be so blended into your skin. Let it dry in a big thick clump and then remove it with a Q-tip. It should just flake off. You shouldn't have any issues that way. Now, in terms of layers, I don't recommend more than 2 layers of mascara. You wanna wait no more than a minute in between layers. And I'm just going back over this lash to apply a bit more intensity and then I'm back to this eye. It's really fast. If you apply too many layers of mascara, it's gonna start to get really clumpy and gunky and it will look like a bad pair of fake lashes, which is not what you want. When it comes to the lower lashes, you wanna go lighter handed, typically. I'm just gonna brush a little bit onto the lashes. I say, again, style trumps all. If you wanna go with like nothing on the lower lash line, that's cool. Usually a bit of mascara is what I'll go for if I'm doing a more natural look like this. Sometimes I'll do a swipe of eyeshadow under there, maybe a little bit of glitter. It really depends. But for a look like this, just a bit of that mascara on the bottom, I'm good to go. We're almost done. Congratulations. For lips, let's keep it simple, okay? That's what I like to do. Now we applied that bit of lip balm in the beginning. That's awesome. What I'm gonna say next is practicing with a lip liner is gonna be a really important skill, especially if you want to eventually do more bold or colorful lips. You wanna start practicing with nude lip liner so you can get a feel for the technique and handling. This is a Cream Glide lip liner. This is one of e.l.f.'s. It is literally $2 and it's great. You can get a bunch of different shades with the Cream Glide. This is a more nude shade. I don't know if you can really see, but it's kind of a mauvey light skin tone color. This is my favorite. Before you put any product on your lips, you want to kind of just like tap them off a little bit. You don't want any saliva or oil sitting there. You want it to be nice and dry, not bone dry, just not wet, okay? And then with the lip liner, you don't want to go over your lip line to start. There's many ways you can do overlining as a technique to create different dimensions. Let's keep it simple, okay? To start with, especially the corners of the mouth, just follow your natural lip line. And usually you can even like put a finger on your face to steady your hand. I'm just gonna go gently like this. And you should be able to see that's very close to my natural lip color. That's my goal. And then with the upper. All right. Now again, lips, just like every other part of your face, are gonna be individual, very different for everybody. So as you age especially, your lip line, your natural lip line can feather, and using a lip liner in a natural shade can just bring that natural sort of youthful fullness back to the lip. So that's one way to go about it. You can also use lip liner to create new dimension, which I'll get into in a second. And the bolder your lip color is, like if you're going for a bright red, the more important it is to have a really precise lip line. Don't go right for the red right away. If you're practicing, start with a neutral or a nude, get the shaping down, get the precision down, and then try out your red. Like go for it, give it a try. I just recommend starting with more natural looks and building your way up, just like everything else on the face. Now, one area where we can play with a bit of dimension is the middle of the lip. If you're gonna overline anywhere, that's usually the spot to do it, just very lightly. So I like to do a little bit over in the top here. I've actually had some lip filler here that has created a secondary lip line, and I like to follow that. So where my natural lip color kind of stops here, I'm gonna go like a millimeter above. And I'm gonna do that by following the natural line from the edge, the side of my lip, and bringing the natural line into the overline. All right. If you're overlining anywhere on the lip, you want to make sure that there is areas, especially the corners, that are lined in the lines. That way the overlined area looks more natural and fitted with the rest of your lip. With the lip liner completed, it's time for like a lipstick or a lip gloss. You can do one, the other, both, whatever you like. I'm gonna use a lip oil. This is the e.l.f. Cosmetics lip oil in their clear shade. I like this because it's completely clear, very natural result, very shiny, very comfortable, and it kind of has a hydrating feeling to it. I like my lips feeling like I don't have a lot of product on them. You can really make it work with whatever kind of light-handed product you have. So a bit of lip oil through the middle. A little bit goes a long way. And now we've got it some shine, plumpness, definition, hydration, everything you could need. That's a full face of makeup, okay? To finish it all off and set it into the face, we're gonna go back to that setting spray we used at the beginning of the video. There's a few that I like. You might wanna try something like the Urban Decay All Nighter. I know One Size has an incredible setting spray that is just, everybody loves it. Those are both very expensive though. I think this one's like $45. One Size has gotta be over $50 if I'm not mistaken. I haven't tried it. I really want to, but she's expensive. e.l.f. Cosmetics has the Power Grip Dewey setting spray that we used earlier. This is a great one. They've got a few. Take a look. There's one that's more mattifying if you prefer that with an oilier skin type. I like this one because it creates a more skin-like effect. So you just want to hold that about a ruler's length away from your face. You probably want to use less than that. I just go heavy with this because it feels so nice. It's got a really fine mist too. Most setting sprays are going to come out a little bit more aggressive than that. So you might want to hold it actually at a full arm's length. It depends on the bottle. Give it a try. See how the spray comes out and adjust accordingly. But a setting spray is great because you just put all that work in. You don't want it to come off. So the All Nighter, for example, I like to use when I'm actually going out somewhere. I'm going to be going to edit this video after I record it. So I'm not doing a waterproof setting spray, but a very good sticking setting spray can be very important for long wear. Now that the setting spray is on, that makeup is going to stay on much better. We're going to keep it secure and we're all done. We can take our hair down. Can you believe it? C'est voila! Thank you so much for following along this tutorial. I hope you learned something. I hope some of my knowledge has been helpful. If you have any questions, please do let me know. I really do stand by every product I've recommended in this video. And again, this is not sponsored by e.l.f. I am truly recommending them for trans women just starting into makeup because you can get a full face for under $100. And that is very hard to do anywhere else. Once you get a feel for what you want to do with the cosmetics, you might want to branch out and try another product here or there, but e.l.f. Cosmetics is a really good place to start. And also, as a 15-year makeup artist, I like a lot of these products. Like I said, these blushes, fantastic. This highlighter is my absolute favorite. The liquid eyeliner I recommended, S tier. These eyeshadow palettes I use almost every single day. I've created so many cool looks with them. So just because they're affordable, don't let that make you think that they're not gonna give you the result you want. It's great because you can get a full face, try lots of things, get all your tools squared away, and there's not a huge financial barrier. That is so important. Like I said earlier in the video as well, they also have a full line of skincare. So like, again, you can get everything you need. That's why I'm recommending it. My first and foremost concern and intention here is definitely to help trans women learn makeup and develop techniques that make them feel comfortable and empowered and safe and secure and incredible. I am so grateful to the amazing people that helped me build this platform over the last, 8 years, maybe almost 10 years. That is wild to me, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that the early videos I did about transgender makeup 101, like makeup for trans women 101, those videos really helped build a community of trans people that were just here to support each other and to feel empowered and more comfortable navigating the world. That's what it's all about, and that is what I care so much about here. So I hope you received that vibe from this. I hope at no point you felt like I was telling you you couldn't do something, because that's not what this is about. I want you to get there. I just want you to have the tools and the techniques to get there. So please let me know if you have any additional questions about techniques, about product, about anything that I didn't answer for you in this video. I'll either answer it below or I'll do that and make a video about it. With that said, I hope you'll join me on Twitch. I stream multiple times a week at twitch.tv/Stef Sanjati. I really do love gaming, and if you want to see more gaming and beauty related content, my last video was actually all about doing a World of Warcraft The War Within inspired look. Very colorful, very much not this vibe kind of makeup. You can watch that video. There'll be a link somewhere on the screen in a few seconds. And if you join me on Twitch, when you come over, if I'm streaming with my boyfriend, make sure to say hi. He co-hosts with me quite often and we have a blast together. So come hang out with us on the Twitch, in the gaming Discord community. Just come hang out. We're having a good time. I'd love to see you there. We also, in the Discord community, have a section for beauty and fashion. So you can bring your questions about beauty and fashion to me in Discord as well, and I'll be able to answer you on a much more like one-on-one basis in that Discord channel. So come hang out. I would love to see you. All that said, please subscribe if you would like to see some more beauty and gaming content. Playing games happens on Twitch, but I'm going to find ways to mix the two of them right here on YouTube consistently. Thank you for the support. Thank you for watching. And until next time, just remember, you can feel beautiful. And don't listen to a damn soul that tells you you can't. You can learn the tools, you can learn the confidence, you can get there. I believe in you. I will help you in any way I can. You deserve to feel that way. You deserve to feel good about yourself. You can, okay? I promise. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.